Welcome back to another episode of the Art of Coaching Podcast. I am here with Keith Ferrazzi. Keith, thanks for joining me.
Brett, looking forward to this.
A bit surreal for me because I'm sure like many other people and all the people that have interviewed you on all the platforms, I remember never eating alone or never eat alone. I was on a plane. It was my first international speaking event. And that was a fundamental book for me. And, you know, we're going to talk about a lot of subjects over the course of this. But I want to give you an easy on-ramp because I find in the first 5 minutes, right, whenever you're having a conversation with a complete stranger, we want to nix the small talk and get right into it. So I thought a lot about what question could I ask this guy that's probably heard all the bullshit in the world to really connect with him. So, right, you've built a career teaching people how to build genuine reciprocal relationships, strangers or not, okay? Here we are, strangers. What do you think, and I know there's not just one, but what is one of the most common mistakes people make within the first 5 minutes of trying to get to know somebody that they've never met before and want to build a genuine relationship with?
Well, it's probably a couple of things. First of all, the mindset of walking into a conversation, if it's transactional, like, what am I going to get from this guy?
Yeah.
That'll stink on your suit a mile away.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean that you don't want to get something from this guy, but what you should be asking yourself is, what could we create together? Like, what could we create together? And that's a big difference. The other thing is, I always, even before I show up to build a relationship with somebody, if I have a desire to build that relationship, I have always asked myself, what are 5 packets of generosity I could bring to the table? 5 packets of generosity. One of them could be, you know, Brett, I want to say that of all the podcasts I listen to, I really do love your no bullshit mindset.
Appreciate that.
That's an authentic thing that I believe, and I could be pre-prepared for that. Right.
Yeah.
I could also ask, you know, Brett, who are the guy, you know, I'm a part of this group, you're probably aware of it, called Thinkers 50. And I'm being celebrated or put up on a post, I'm not sure what it is, at the big meeting this year. Is there anybody that'll be there, Brett, that you want me to share that they should come on your show? Like, that's a packet of generosity.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
So, like, if you show up with generosity at the forefront, non-transactional mindset at the forefront, and then, you know, like, care about this guy. So, Brett, you know, you've navigated yourself into a coaching career and helping people be great coaches. You know, like, I want to know, what was your twist and turn to get there? Now, that might not be something we're going to do in a podcast.
Sure.
Your fans know you, right?
Right.
But I want to dive in. I want to be curious.
Yeah.
Right? Curiosity is a big part of a relationship. So those are some of the things I might think of.
Yeah. Well said. And I think, you know, it's interesting because you do try to, you want to come with generosity. In today's day and age, man, the transactional stuff is never been worse because everybody is so greedy for content, right? And so they might know that you grew up in Latrobe, Pennsylvania, and they might know about the hard knock inner, you know, details about your life. But then you find out that they're really just looking for some soundbite so they can try to make something go viral. And they don't really want anything in general, right? And like, how do you, I imagine you've had to, and I know that this, you might not feel comfortable answering this. I hope you do. But what are some, you've been around a while. How can you suss some of that out where you're like, you have people reaching out to you all the time. You know, they're going to ask for something. How do you really suss it out when you say it stinks on their suit a mile away? Give our audience 2 to 3 things just that you've seen that you're like, oh boy, I can see this.
A very practical idea, which is, like, I never answer the phone and I don't do my own email. I've got other people who act as filters for sussing some of that stuff out. So my team is really good at knowing what kind of questions to ask that protect me. And, you know, like, if I didn't have somebody, I might even pretend to be the admin if I were you.
I've done that.
Reach out and say, hey, Miss, you know, Keith's been really busy these days. He'd love to have a conversation with you. Would you mind letting us know what the outcome of that would be if it's successful?
Yep.
What would you like to do together?
Yep.
You know, it's like, it's just a filtering device for your time, I think, is a good one. Also, you know, like, I have been around for a long time. I'm almost 60, and you've been around for long enough that you have a good sense of whether or not someone's an asshole, so whether or not, you know, someone wants to co-create. What are they curious about? Have they done their homework before they showed up? Like, do they know enough about, where I come from or what I'm building?
Did I pronounce it right, by the way?
Yeah, you got it.
Okay, good. All right.
That's actually the least of my concerns. Let's just dive into this generosity piece.
Sure.
I am so effing blessed. I grew up poor kid in Pittsburgh, and most of the time I didn't feel like I deserved to be in the room just because my old man got me into a small private elementary school that I was the poor kid. Everybody else was rich. I didn't think I deserved to be there.
He was a steel worker, correct?
Yeah. Unemployed steel worker, passed away now, but yeah.
Sorry.
Thank you. And, then I went to great schools, never thought I deserved to be there. I couldn't get into them these days, that's for sure. But if somebody had woken me up and said, "Oh, Keith, one of these days you're going to be a part of turning around, name these 5 companies. You're a coach to the executive teams of some of those powerful brands in the world." I'd be like, "Holy fuck, that would be like, what a dream."
Right.
And governments. I'm now coaching the turnaround of the country of Bhutan.
Wow.
You could ask me, for your audience, like, what's the trajectory of that? Like, where do you start? And
that's about what I was going to ask you. How do you? That's not a normal project, right? You hear about all these people going into Google, and that we've heard about that and all the leaders. But to say, like, where the hell do you start, and how do you get your foot in the door to in a situation like that?
Yeah, I mean, if we could get into the country thing if you want, but I think the few things. Number one, I think if you're a coach or a thought leader or whatever, you really need to invest in research. And when I don't mean that you need to be doing some of this academic shit that they do at, Stanford, University of Chicago and stuff. But I think you need to always don't rely on what you know. You need to always be asking yourself, in what genre can I know what everybody is doing, what everybody is teaching, and what everybody is saying? In what genre can I help elevate whatever? Like, the other thing is, I've also chosen a niche. I'm not an executive coach.
Right.
I've got one client right now who's I considers me their executive coach. And it's because I was her team coach. I coach executive teams. That's my specialty.
Okay.
And by the way, this book that, everybody can put in their hands now, Never Lead Alone, is exactly the formula I used to do it. I've given everything away. At 60 years of age, I came to the conclusion that instead of thinking about all of the tricks and tips about how to be a high-performing team coach, I decided to write it all down. This is the road book that I would give it a new coach I was coaching into our organization to learn how to do it.
And for the record, folks, this is like everything. It's always in the show notes. Never Lead Alone. You can, of course, find it in Amazon. We'll talk more about that. Yeah. But yeah, keep going.
But every practice, everything I do, and I've just come to it's like I am so rigorous. There is not a book on high performing teams out there that I or my research team haven't read. We've extracted every damn practice or principle. And these days, of course, it's easier with LLMs to do the research.
Yeah.
But I would just say, don't rely on just being lazy and what you already know. Just constantly ask yourself, how do I get better? How do I know more? I'm spending so much time these days on AI. So I started a research institute called Radical Innovators Collaborative. And it's of the Fortune 500, we have 107 CIOs from the Fortune 500. Right? We have 97 CHROs from the Fortune 500. And I'm pulling them together and interviewing them and extracting wisdom on how they're reinventing their companies in an AI-enabled world. Right? And that's major work. That's real research. And I'm doing it because I want to be the most generous, well-informed individuals at the cutting edge of my profession all the time. Yeah. And I recommend that if you want to be a great coach, you're the same. You do the damn work, and you don't rely on just that. Don't just lie on the fact that I've had these experiences. Like, this is, that's lazy. Yeah. You need to be out ahead of your profession and knowing what other people don't know, and constantly, voraciously. By the way, one way to do that is to write. I write to learn things, not write to share things. Like I will, if I waited until I thought I knew enough and then decided to write a book, that'd be boring to me. I write because I'm like, okay, my new book is going to be on this subject and I don't know enough about it. Now I'm going to go on a 3-year journey and I'm going to learn everything about it to the point where I can write a book on it.
Is that on average how long it's taken you to do? I know each book is a little bit different. But
on average, it's been 3 years. I mean, the book Never Lead Alone, the new one, it was a 20-year research project because I never had enough guts to give the world everything I know about team coaching.
Yeah.
I was like, oh my God, if I give all of these cool tips away, these are really differentiated. Anybody could do this.
I was going to say, why was that a concern? You just felt like anybody else would be able to do that?
Yeah, I really, and that was just so myopic on my part.
Sure.
It wasn't legacy building. Legacy building means I want to give my IP out to the world.
Right.
I'd love to and we don't have a certification program for it, but we've been thinking about it. Like, should we certify coaches in the teamship manner, which we can get into again? Because I do believe that we over-index on leadership and under-index on teamship.
Yeah, we'll talk about what that means too. Yeah. But I want you to finish your train of thought on this first.
Yeah, but what I'm saying, my advice to folks out there is be ahead of the curve, write ahead of the curve, research ahead of the curve. Write, and it doesn't even have to be big books, right? They can be a series of blogs that might someday turn into a book. And books are valuable because they may not be read like they used to, but the in-depth research you do to write them is going to elevate you in a significant way.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then look, I mean, I had my brand, a lot of people know me for, and I would highly recommend if you're a coach, go read Never Eat Alone, my first book. It's probably the Bible all over the world, any country these days. It's the Bible for building high performing networks. Right. And that made me incredibly successful young. I was the chief marketing officer at Deloitte by the time I was 30. Chief marketing officer at Starwood Hotels and Resorts by the time I was in my early 30s. I was a massive success because of the relationships that I built.
You're taking all the research I was going to apply to the conversation. This is great. It's good. Keep going.
Well, but my point is that book is a big gift for any of you who want to build your book of business, right? And there's a chapter in there from the early days. I always said, make sure you build your brand and write. There's a whole chapter about how to go about doing that. But what I've learned over the years, and my focus over the years is, I've moved from Never Eat Alone about networks into high performing teams, Never Lead Alone, Leading Without Authority, Competing in the New World of Work, all of these other books I've written. And it's all about collaboration. So today I would say I'm probably one of the world's greatest experts on how we collaborate. How do we build a challenge culture? How do we do what I call 21st century collaboration? You put my name into Harvard Business Review and there'll be 20 articles in there about leading in a virtual environment. So, like my world today is how people work together to achieve 10x outcomes. That's Keith Ferrazzi. So I moved from networking to collaboration, and I've gone really deep on this collaboration piece. So I would highly recommend that anybody out there really get a specialty that you're good at and focus on it and research and become a head above any of your peers in what you know about it.
Yeah, that's helpful. And there's a question on the back end of this, but just to touch onto that, it's interesting how many people, interesting but understandable how hard it is for certain people to find that thing that they think they're the best at. Because, people do fall there. I mean, you have hubris, but you also have people that have quote unquote imposter phenomenon. And then sometimes it emerges late. I mean, when I first got into coaching, it was more performance training, world-class athletes, what have you. Then I realized what I really love here is managing the power dynamics, the social dynamics, the fact that I have to, as you mentioned in parts of your career, you had to work your way up in unconventional ways. For me, I got guys worth $100 million that look at a 5'8" white kid from Omaha, Nebraska. There's a power dynamic that we have to bridge there when they're paying me for a service. And I've got to learn a lot of ethical influence tactics and nuances to get them to understand, hey, this is your core drive. This is what we have to do. You don't always have to love it, but this is the outcome we need to achieve together as a team. And so
have you ever written anything on how do you get people to listen to you?
Oh, absolutely. My next book with Penguin Random House comes out next year. And a big part of that is whether you're doing that with people that actually want to listen or whether it's people that, are kind of tuned out, especially as they can be in today's attention economy, right? How do you find those things? But did you have something you wanted to share on that before I go on to the core question?
No, I'm just saying because that's what I was going to go back to was, if you're sitting here listening to this and you don't know what your thing is, right? How did Keith do networking? Well, Keith didn't want to be a networking guru. Other people told me I was, right? I didn't necessarily pick collaboration and teams as my thing. I would be a coach, and then I would ask people, what do you really admire about what I'm delivering for you? What stands out? People are like, well, Keith, you're really better than anybody else that I know at helping us as executives figure out how to work better together to achieve breakthrough outcomes. So it's not about high performing me. It's high performing with other people.
Yeah. And so that's part of your teamship philosophy.
That's the teamship philosophy. But my point is, ask others. If you don't know what it is, ask others. I'm constantly asking both positive and negative feedback. I'm saying, tell me what I do that's better than most, that you really value most.
Yeah.
And then I can begin to understand who I am, authentic to me, through the lens of other people.
I think that's a really great tip. One thing we also say, and feel free to disagree or add on to any of this, so it's more of a conversation, is I started telling people, look in your texts and your emails. What are people asking you? Even if they don't tell you overtly. I had people always reaching out. Hey, how do I deal with this personality? Or I'm stuck in this position. And I'm like, why do people? Oh, okay. Well, I'm interested in psychology. I'm interested in social dynamics. They know that I'm interested in these kinds of, but sometimes you just really have to observe and be curious, because it's not going to be writ explicitly all the time. Right. But if you pay attention to these subtle cues, and then, because it is scary. I mean, who hasn't been at a point in their life? I don't care if it's 60 or 30 where you think, holy shit, am I doing what I'm actually best in the world at? And how do, and that can be tough. And then you have some people, because you've talked about transition. I hope you don't mind touching on this briefly. We have some people in our audience that have reached out and are like, I feel like a failure. I started off in this one career. I made it ostensibly to the top of it, whatever that means to them, subjectively and objectively. But now because of something that happened in their life or a change in interest, maybe it's in their mid to late 30s, early 50s, they want to change. And they kind of feel like, did I do it wrong? I mean, any thoughts on that?
Well, one of the things I've always learned is every new pivot that I made in my life. I was, as a kid, I wanted to be a politician, and I was working my way up. I ran for city council in New Haven, Connecticut. I was the mentee of William F. Buckley Jr., George Bush Sr. Like, I was doing all these really cool things. And then I made a pivot in politics, and I'm not going to do politics anymore. It was interesting. It was the people who I had built authentic relationships with in politics that actually helped me fund my MBA when I couldn't afford it.
Really?
Right? It's like when I was in a large corporate world and I had my relationships with chief marketing officers of other companies, and they were authentic relationships. When I decided to go and start my own firm, they were my clients. So I feel that along the way, as you make these pivots, if you built the authentic relationships along the way, those pivots are the stepping stone to the next level. You're not a failure. You're not starting back at zero, right? You're starting with the world of authentic, generous, mutually supportive relationships that you have.
Yep. Well said.
So I just feel like you've garnered a lot more in that, and you've codified, whether you know it or not, a methodology. One of the things I'm working with Thinkers 50 on is they've launched an award that is basically Leaders 50. So thought leaders who aren't thought leaders full time, but they're CEOs, they're whatever.
Yeah.
And a lot of executives, they do have a methodology in their head that they just have never codified it onto paper. They've never published. So chances are you've spent, 40 years in a career, 30 years in a career. You've codified a methodology. And one of the things I like to do for people is say to them, if you had to write a book today, you don't even have to make sure that the chapters make sense together. Write down 10 statements that could potentially be chapter titles of
good
your
advice.
book.
Yeah, very good advice.
Good advice. The 10 statements are things you fundamentally believe in that you wished everybody believed in and knew and did well.
Yeah.
What are those 10 things? And you write those down and you share them around with friends. Some people will be like, well, those two things are the same. Well, have you ever thought of this? You'll iteratively write your book, but more importantly, you're codifying your methodology. Sometimes you definitely need other people to tease out of you what is unconsciously competent. And, you're so good at it, you don't even think about it. So those are things that you might want to think about.
No question. Very valuable. I mean, we run a writer's workshop to help people, who want to write their own book. And one of the things we even say is, guys, it doesn't matter if you want to put just some ideas in a PowerPoint slide, if you want to write them down, if you want to put them on note cards. But as you said, get them out, allow the iterative process to take place. Yeah, because, and I can relate. I remember, especially my second book was the hardest, and I'd want to know what Stephen King did and George R.R. Martin did and this, and very few people, interestingly enough, actually share their process. But what you also find is there is the process, just like everything else. Make it messy, get it out, start to, as you said, codify it. You got to get the aspects and the ingredients of that shitty first draft out somewhere before. Anything you want to add to that before we pivot?
No, I think you and I are aligned, and I was saying it, like I used to always say that if I wanted to become an expert at something, first thing I would do, I would force myself to give a speech on it.
Yeah.
Right. Because that's more easy. It's more fluid.
Tightens it.
Right. Tightens it up, but it also allows you to riff a bit and go off. And then the next thing I would do is write an article about it. Right. And then the next thing I would do is I would write my chapter titles. So you basically build on your expertise in iterations. And every time I would share it with somebody and get their feedback.
Yeah. No, I mean, that's a constraints-based approach, right? When you have 60 minutes or 30 minutes and what have you. And that's what I meant by tight. And now it's, okay, well, I've got to fit this in. And that didn't land, but I might put this in a dump pile because it might come back in a future book. I think that's wonderful. Now, this is where I have to manage my own selfish desires because I want to ask you so many questions, but I know we're on a time crunch. So we're going to come back. I'd love, with your permission, to come back to some of these things after we hit on some core things. I really want you to be able to talk about. I do want to know more about your writing process. I do want to know a little bit more about your research process because I love that you talk about curiosity and generosity, and you mentioned AI, and you're spot on. And I'm going to get to the core of teamship momentarily. But I love that you said that, it's easy to do with LLMs. But what LLMs will never, at least not for now, they will never replace genuine curiosity. So I could plug in, tell me everything I need to know about Keith Ferrazzi right now, right? And basically do no research before the show. And it's going to plot out the basic stuff that everybody else has asked you. But what it can't do is build off of, that's interesting. Let's see where that goes in conversation. Now let's build off that. Now let's build off that. And that will never change. And you actually have to be genuinely interested in the person and give a shit to take that farther. I mean, would you agree, or do you think that, what do you think is, go ahead.
I don't think we're very far from AI being a better interviewer than most of us would be, because I believe that AI will be able to consume all of the volume of information I have here, right? And which is stuff I've forgotten. Like I don't remember half the characters in some of my earlier books at this stage. I've been doing it for 20 years. I think a good LLM, and then you would say to it, knowing that this is the persona of your audience, other coaches, what are the 10 most important questions that you should ask Keith to help other coaches be successful? That would be a really interesting prompt. Right?
Sure.
And I think we'll get to the stage. I've seen a buddy of mine, Peter Diamandis. He did this really great online thing where he had his AI avatar, which is him, and him talk to each other and interview each other. And it was extraordinary. And it got to the, you've seen this. You've seen that happen?
Yeah. Well, and I'm just a weirdo. So I tried doing this with I'm like, try to pin me down. It was part of my brainstorming process for my next book. I'm like, pin me down with everything you know about, interview me, try to put me in a tight spot. But I'm very weird. So it's nice to know that somebody else did it.
It's going to be extraordinary. We can go off an entire thing on that. Let me come back to my process, and let me use the book so we can do a twofer.
Sure.
Look, Never Eat Alone was about building relationships. Never Lead Alone is about how do you get relationships to be more productive together. So if you're a coach, you want I've always found it insatiating to coach a single executive, because the reality is, if you were my coach, I'm going to give you a vantage point of me based on my impression of me and my impression of others. If you were in the room coaching the team, you'd see what an asshole I am. You'd see whatever, right? I mean, and so I feel like individual executive coaching, I understand there's tons of people get a lot of success out of it, But for me personally, it's like doing couples counseling with only one of the two people.
Yeah. Well
like
said.
I want them together. I want the creative drift. So what I did was, over a period of 20 years, I have sat in the room with Jeff Bezos' team and observed what a high performing team looks like. I have gone deep with Jamie Dimon at JP Morgan.
One of my favorite figures.
What's that? Yeah.
I love watching him interview. I love his communication style. Just nice to know somebody like that still exists with how they communicate.
Amazing. And no bullshit, straight to the punch. Anyway, so I have consumed that and watched it. And then what I'm looking for, and this is the distinction of my coaching, the book is built on 37 high return practices. My research is practice based. I don't do trend research. I don't research concepts like conflict avoidance. I go into and I'm looking for how a team moves from conflict avoidance to candor, because the highest performing teams I observed had a lot of candor. And so one of the things that I created was a practice that I noticed was sort of done in Jeff Bezos' team earlier. I called it a candor break. In the middle of a meeting, somebody would stop and say, okay, let's have a no bullshit shift here. What really do we need to say? And all of a sudden people would pause and be like, what are we leaving on off the table? And they would go hard in a different level of dialogue. Yep. So I created something for teams. I call it candor break. In the middle of a meeting I'm coaching, I'll pause and I'll say, stop. Everybody write on a scale of 0 to 5 on a piece of paper. What is the degree? 0 is conflict avoidant bullshit. 5 is a real challenge culture, and everything everyone's thinking is on the table. Where are we right now in this dialogue? And they'll rate it, and it'll be like a 2.5 or a 3.5. And I'll say, okay, that's not acceptable. Everybody going to just turn to the person next to you. And for the next minute, I want you to share what is not being said in this room that needs to be said, damn it.
Yep.
And they do, and then they come back and everybody reports. And then afterward, I measure again and say, okay, now we've had this debate again. And now on a scale of 0 to 5, where are we? And I've got all 4s and 5s. So it's like you've got to intervene and bring candor to the forefront of people's attention. Go into small conversations of 2, because if you ask a group of 12, what's not being said that should be said, you'd hear
right.
Truth.
Yeah.
You assign it into groups of 2 and you hear truth. Yep. So the book, if you're a coach and you want to coach your teams to be high performing, this book has 10 chapters, 10 critical shifts a team needs to make. And each one, there's a hero story if somebody does it well, and then some simple practices that you can do, like a candor break. It's really a roadmap for turning around a team.
It's good that you laid that out. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, I'm just kidding. That's the kind of research I do. And my writing, I'm always writing and asking myself, if somebody can't close their eyes and see it being done and know how to do it themselves, I'm not going to write it on a piece of paper. I started an app years ago called Pocket Coach. And the idea, I got my buddy Tony Shea from Zappos to co-fund it with me. And the idea was every great book, Good to Great, etc., we would read the book and turn it into, if I want to be a level 5 leader in Good to Great, what are the things I would do every day? What are the practices? And we thought we're going to go, and you can read a book, but you can also download the practices of the book, and it would prompt you to do those practices in text every day. We had to close the company down because most books don't have fucking practices.
Yeah.
It's amazing. It's like we talk about these big concepts in books, but they don't have fundamental, simple practices like candor breaks to move psychological safety from one to the other.
And a lot of that, just to interject for a minute, because I agree, and feel free, as I've said with anything, to disagree on this. That to me has been kind of a little bit of, I mean, there's always a blessing and burden. Some great ideas come from it and all that, but kind of like we went through that TED Talk era, right? Where, okay, now I can make something one word. I can make it a big idea. I can make it a book. It seems, and there's plenty of great books out there, but I don't feel like that necessarily always helped things, right? Because then everybody could have this pie in the sky idea of this utopian thing, but it's like, where's the fucking practice here? Yeah. Because like that's how I have to make my living too. I can't go out to these teams and be like, oh, here's this thought. No, they're going to sit there and look at me and say, all right, dickhead.
Some of the most successful thought leaders don't have practices.
I know.
I'm like, how in the hell,
content culture,
Brene Brown and others. It's like, they're just principles, not practices. So That's my recommendation.
No, you need to go. I want to hear a little bit more of Dark Side Keith on that, because you have an opinion on that. Why do you think, and pontificate, let's just have some fun. Take the researcher and this is our candor break. Why do you think people gobble that shit up like Skittles more than ever before?
Because you don't have to do shit. Because it's fucking easy.
And these companies pay them. They pay them tons of money.
I know, because it's easy. It's just something nice to hear. I'm not forcing you into doing something different. I'm not telling you that, okay, tomorrow you got to go try this. You're actually just being corporate entertained. That's why there's billions of dollars made in the entertainment industry. Well, a lot of the world of coaching and the world of thought leadership is corporate entertainment. I don't need that.
That's a great term.
Need transformation. Transformation is a wonderful old phrase that I researched when I did Who's Got Your Back. You don't think your way to a new way of acting. You act your way to a new way of thinking.
Yeah.
And the action is tough. It takes work, and people don't want to do it. They're easier to sit back and just entertain me and tell me good stories and make me think differently. Fuck it. I want to do different.
Yeah. So do you think, I mean, you're obviously a Goliath. You have such a legacy. And like you said, you've been doing this for more than 20 years, but do you think there's still room in the space for other no bullshit people to even 100%. Make it in this?
100%.
Do you think there's still an audience that wants some gritty, this isn't bullshit, we're doing it?
Yeah. Because you give them results.
Yeah.
Look, it's not easy, but you better be measuring if you're a coach, and this is the other thing that happens. It's like the only thing that matters to me in my research and in my speaking and in my coaching is if you elevate your business outcomes.
Yeah.
That's it. So when I go and give a speech, I do what I call challenge talks. I say in advance of preparing for a talk, I say to the boss, okay, what are you trying to achieve strategically that isn't present today? What objectives, what goals, what measurements? And what would be the most powerful few things that we could get this audience to do differently between now and the next 3 months that would get you on the trajectory that you're looking for of a different outcomes? So I engineer that into my talk. That's what my talks are about. Like, I have a whole body of research that I can pick from, but like, what is it? And what's funny about it is sometimes the leaders don't even know how to answer that question. They have nebulous answers for that. And I'm like, how in the world, if you can't even tell people what they need to do differently to achieve the outcomes you're looking for, how do you expect they're ever going to get there?
Well, and that's one thing I wanted to ask, knowing that I know we only have about 13 or 12 minutes left. So I want to get to 2 key questions and keep my promise to you and be generous to you. Within that, whether it's the candor breaks or getting people to have the kinds of discussions they need to have, because you're right? A lot of has focused on the individual leader in the past, and leadership has to be integrated, which is why I love the teamship idea. But what do you feel like has to be present to make that team psychologically safe in that kind of environment? And to anchor this for listeners, just to help frame it up, guys, as many of you know, we go into organizations and we do a lot of role play, and we put people in these scenarios, right? We call it social scrimmaging or social sparring, Keith. And there's some organizations that we go into, especially first responders, where we don't need to set that tone that much. They're ready to get into it. It's life and death shit. But then there's other ones where, oh my God, it almost seems like the idea of conflict is anathema. And then you can try to help them understand that conflict isn't what you think it is. But even just a you could choose conflict, hard conversation, candor, any of those things. And it's like, so what are some things that you believe have to be present to get that team safe, feeling psychologically safe enough to be like, okay, let's go?
Yeah. Process. Simple. So I'll give you a couple for instance. If you're having a meeting on a really delicate subject and you know people are not willing to put their truth on the table, open up a Google Doc or a Google Sheet and say, okay, on this topic, what's the real problem we're trying to solve for? And put everyone's name on the left-hand column and let everybody answer that question. What's the real problem we're trying to solve for? What's a bold solution to fix it? We'll write it in there. If you ask people to give you their thoughtful, defined insight, they will give you, and they will have higher than 85% higher degree of psychological safety in pre-work versus in the meeting itself. Okay. If somebody gives a presentation, there's this chapter 3 of the book talks about stress testing. After every presentation of some initiative that's going on in your business, say to the team, we're going to stress test this initiative. So the person shows up, they share what they've been working on. They share, ideally, I have a formula. They share where they've succeeded, where they're struggling, where they're going, sort of like an agile stand-up. And then the team is supposed to stress test. So they open up a document with what do you challenge about what you just heard? Like, what does this person need to hear that they're not hearing? What innovation might you offer? And would you be willing to help somewhere? You've just turned the culture you want. You want to challenge culture? Tell your damn team to write down the challenges they have.
Yeah.
So if you take culture, I wrote a piece in Fortune magazine about this, and it's in the book, chapter 3 again. If you take the culture you wish you had and turn it into a process and a practice, then nothing has to be present in advance, right? So where I think the Brene Browns of the world and others and the folks from psychological safety, Amy Edmondson and others, they spend so much time talking about the state that has to exist. Yeah. I'll tell you how to get to the state, change the process.
Yeah, well said.
Right? You have a room of 12 people, 4 people will feel heard. If you have everybody write up their answers in advance, 10 people will feel heard. Mm. So it's like the whole book is chock full of simple process and practice. I grew up in manufacturing. I was in, industrial engineer, frontline. I was focused right out of Yale University. I went to the factory because that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to change American manufacturing. And I learned total quality management, Six Sigma. Everything was a process to be re-engineered. I've taken that same mindset and brought it to leadership and teams today. And I think that it's a very refreshing way to think. And that's what the book's all about.
Yeah, no, very well said. And so with that, knowing that, and if we need to do a part 2, we will.
Sure.
How do we balance kind of this importance of teamship, right? Understanding the integration of not just the leader, but the led, because everybody's a leader in some context, what have you. But now adding this other ingredient of collaboration in an AI adopted world, because most people don't know how to work well together yet. That's fundamental to human nature to a degree, right? Friend and foe. Now we have essentially this alien life force here, which I'm more positive on it than I think most people. They get doom and gloom. I just think people need to actually embrace and think and get their hands dirty. But how do you manage it? It's a meta question. So take it wherever you want. No, but I'd love to know your thoughts.
It's as simple as we all need to get used to having AI as our teammates. As soon as you start thinking that way, then you'll be good. Right now, the AI isn't a particularly evolved teammate.
It's not AGI yet.
We're in the process of re-engineering our own brand at Ferrazzi Greenlight. So we have a speaking business around the books. Then we have a coaching business, which coaches teams only. But, we now have an online coaching community where any of your listeners who want to crush it in building the relationships that they need in their life to be successful as a coach, we have this thing called connectedsuccess.com. Now, that's sort of an OG thing for Ferrazzi Greenlight. It's like, that's bringing back the work of Never Eat Alone, Who's Got Your Back, Leading Without Authority, and we're teaching it in an 8-week cohort-based learning. It starts to make me feel a little schizophrenic on my brand. Yeah. So, because I am with a business that has an executive community of the top executives in the Fortune 500 teaching the future of AI in re-engineering your teams. And then I've got OG, build the relationships you need to be successful, right?
Yeah.
How do I deal with that from a brand perspective? Well, what we did was we put a spreadsheet together and each executive team member of my team answered a set of questions. But then we had a column for AI and we put it into AI. We had them consume the answers of my executive team, but we had AI answer the question as well. Boy, did it teach us a lot.
Really?
Right? So we add AI, in this case, the persona that I created of the AI, which was a brand coach. You are a brand coach and your job is to help the Ferrazzi Greenlight organization evolve with a new brand, knowing now that you've gone both high-end executive Fortune 500 research, but you're also going into individual relationship coaching through online learning and cohort learning. How do you manage that? And it starts to teach us, and it's amazing.
I was going to ask why the 8-week cohort, and what does that look like? So is it you actually teaching over the course of those members of your team? How many people are on your team?
Yeah,
but why 8 weeks?
Yeah. Over an 8-week period, every week we treat it as an agile sprint. And you work through with a small peer-to-peer learning group of your peers. So if you're a financial advisor, you'd be with other financial advisors. If you're a coach, you'd be with other coaches. And in these small peer-to-peer coaching groups, you're coaching through things that we believe you need to do. Like one of the weeks is all devoted to, have you created an executive community that is a group of individuals that you aspire to be like? Can you facilitate and coach that? Like when I've created this executive community of CIOs of Fortune 500 companies, they love me, but I'm not one of them. I'm their host.
Yeah.
Right. So how do we use executive community creation? Do we even have a relationship action plan? You know, what are the most important connectors that we aspire to gain relationship with? How do we do it? Each of these are weekly cohorts. So I'm not in that on a weekly basis. I come in once a month and I deliver the keynotes to this group. And then you'll love, that's why I'm home in LA. Normally I'm up in San Fran these days, but I'm home down in LA. I have 2 homes. It's because at the end of every 8 week, we have a graduation ceremony at my home here in LA.
That's awesome.
So the folks get to know me, and damn, it's been amazing. We have, 100 or so folks in every cohort. I'm getting people from Poland and Singapore that are flying over here to meet me, and I'm loving it. I'm building this great community of people here in LA that I'm thriving with. So, again, it's and it's connectedsuccess.com.
Yeah. Okay. Perfect.
The reason I bring it up to your folks is AI got, part of this was a brand extension that AI coached me to do. I had left too much legacy brand of Keith Ferrazzi on the table.
Yeah.
And AI suggested that I do this.
I'm glad that you're transparent about that, because I think again, a lot of people feel like they have to go, oh, I had this genius insight. I mean, that's how things happen. You talk to it, you communicate. I mean, because I've wondered it too. My first book was a bestseller. Great. But that was strength and conditioning coach, pro athlete, Brett. Now we do leadership development, communication strategy, all that. And the first question I always got from people is, well, so you're going to leave that audience behind? I go, well, no, ideally they evolve with me, because what is coaching in any context, athlete, this, that, what have you, other than guiding, teaching, and building relationships and trust.
Amen.
But it does get tricky. You can't sit there and think, damn, there's a lot to manage in this brand. I want to be respectful. We're just beginning this relationship. I understand that you have to run, but I also want to give you a chance to, plug the shit out of everything that you want. Our audience wants to support you. Do it. And then we're doing a part 2.
I answer that question to try to be of service. So number 1, get Never Eat Alone. It will help you rethink how you think about relationships to be of service to your growth and development. Number 2, if you ever want to be a team coach, you want to ever coach an executive to be a better leader of teams, get Never Lead Alone. Follow me on LinkedIn. But come on, if you really want to get to know me better, come and join our community. Connectedsuccess.com, and I will see you at my place for dinner in 8 weeks.
Excellent point. Well, Keith, thank you again for getting online and trusting a stranger. I know you do this a lot. So to give me the grace and take a chance, I hope you didn't regret it. There's a lot more we can talk about off air. Folks, make sure to look at the links in the show notes. Always support our guests. You guys know you do this day in and day out. A lot of time, love, and effort goes into this. Always support them. Mr. Ferrazzi, we'll talk to you soon.
Brett, thanks a lot.